I never planned for that night to change everything. The way his eyes caught mine across the crowded bar, like a spark in the dark, set fire beneath my skin. I was supposed to be careful. I told myself that. But when he smiled, slow and knowing, I felt my defenses crumble. I followed him outside, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the city noise. His hand brushed mine, fingers warm and electric. I tasted his name before he said it, Ethan. The night promised danger, but I was ready to get lost. His voice was low, a velvet promise that made me want to forget all reason. "You're not from here, are you?" he asked, lips close enough to catch my breath. I shook my head, suddenly shy, even though my body screamed yes. He pulled me closer, his hand resting just above my hip, his warmth radiating through the chilly night air. Every step we took was a step deeper into temptation, and I could feel desire curling like smoke inside me, unseen, but impossible to ignore. We found a quiet street, dimly lit by flickering lamps. The city's noise fell away, replaced by the steady thump of our hearts. Ethan's fingers traced the curve of my waist, sending shivers I couldn't hide. I leaned into him, hungry for more than just his touch. His eyes darkened with need, reflecting everything I wanted but was too afraid to say. The tension between us grew, electric and thick, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us. His mouth brushed my ear, warm and insistent. "Tell me what you want," he whispered. I swallowed hard, voice barely a breath. "I want you." The words felt like a confession, a surrender to the fire burning between us. Ethan's hand slid beneath my shirt, fingers tracing the skin that tingled beneath his touch. I closed my eyes, letting the moment consume me, knowing that once I crossed this line, nothing would ever be the same. Our lips met, soft at first, tasting and teasing. Then harder, urgent, as if making up for years we'd never had. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, deepening the kiss until I forgot everything but the heat of his body pressed against mine. The night stretched endlessly, a promise of something dangerous and thrilling. Between temptation and desire, I was falling, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. His hand slid lower, tracing the curve of my hips, fingers exploring boldly but gently. Every touch sent a jolt of electricity racing through me. I trembled, caught between the need to pull away and the desperate desire to sink deeper into his arms. Ethan's breath was hot against my neck as he whispered promises I wasn't sure I deserved. The night air was thick with unspoken words, and every second stretched into an eternity that only belonged to us. We stumbled into the shadowed doorway of an old building, hidden from the world. My heart hammered wildly as Ethan's lips found the sensitive spot just beneath my ear again. My hands tangled in his shirt, pulling him closer, craving the feel of his skin against mine. The world faded, no noise, no lights, only the heat that pulsed between us. I surrendered, letting the moment consume me completely, knowing this night would haunt me long after it ended. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, then slid down my neck, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. I gasped softly as his mouth claimed mine again, this time slower, deeper, tasting every inch of my hesitation and hunger. My body responded instinctively, arching into his touch, craving more than I had ever admitted to myself. The ache between my thighs grew, matched only by the pounding of my heart, threatening to break free. "Do you want this?" Ethan murmured against my lips, voice thick with need. I nodded, breathless, words lost to the heat swirling inside me. He pressed closer, his hands exploring as if memorizing every curve. I could feel his desire radiating through his skin, burning through every barrier I had built. The world around us ceased to exist, there was only us, tangled together in a dance as old as time, suspended between temptation and desire. Our bodies moved in rhythm, slow, deliberate, electric. Every kiss, every touch was a promise and a question all at once. I was falling hard and fast, and I didn't want to catch myself. In that shadowed corner, beneath the indifferent stars, I gave in to the hunger I'd fought for so long. Between temptation and desire, I found something raw, something real, something I was terrified and desperate to keep. The silence afterward was louder than his breath against my neck. My skin still tingled from where he touched me, but the thrill had started to fade, leaving something softer. Heavier. I stared at the cracked ceiling above us, our bodies tangled in sweat and shadows, and I wondered if he could hear my thoughts the way he'd read my body. I didn't want to move. Because movement meant reality. And reality meant I'd have to face the truth, this wasn't just sex. Not for me. Ethan brushed his thumb over my cheek, and I flinched. It wasn't fear. It was tenderness. And that scared me more. You okay? He whispered, his voice raw from what we'd just done. I nodded, too quickly. I didn't want to cry. Not after giving him everything. Not after giving in so completely. He looked at me like he saw something I'd been hiding for years, and I hated how much I wanted him to keep looking. I should go, I mumbled, sitting up, wrapping my arms around myself like armor. His hand grazed my back, warm and lingering. You don't have to. That made it worse. I didn't want kindness. I didn't want him to make it harder. I wanted it to be a mistake. Just heat. But the way his eyes followed me said otherwise. I wasn't ready for what he saw in me. I gathered my clothes in silence, one piece at a time, pretending I didn't feel his gaze on every inch of me. My jeans stuck to my skin, still damp from where he'd had me against the wall. I winced, not from pain, but from the memory of how desperately I'd wanted him. What did that say about me? What did it say about what I needed? You always run? He asked softly. The question froze me. My hand clutched my shirt mid-button. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because yes, I did. Every time it got real, I left before it could hurt. But with Ethan, the damage was already done. I'd let him in without even realizing it, and now my chest ached like something had been torn open. He stood, bare and unapologetic, closing the space between us. I looked away, but he tilted my chin back. You don't have to be scared of this, he murmured. Of me. I hated how badly I wanted to believe him. His words were gentle, but they hit harder than any touch. Because they felt true. And truth was something I'd long stopped trusting. I kissed him. Not out of lust, but need. Because for a moment, I wanted to disappear into someone else's warmth and pretend I wasn't broken. His mouth answered mine with a hunger that was slow, patient, almost reverent. Like he wasn't just kissing me, but remembering me. And God, I wanted to be remembered. We sank back into the mattress, limbs weaving together like silk and fire. This time, it wasn't fast. It wasn't raw. It was slow. Unforgiving in how deep it went. He traced every inch of me like a map he never wanted to forget. My back arched under his palm, and every breath was a confession I didn't speak. Somewhere between the kiss behind my knee and the whisper against my stomach, I stopped pretending I could stay numb. I wasn't numb. I was burning. With him inside me again, the pleasure felt intimate. Terrifying. It curled around my ribs like a promise I hadn't asked for. When I came undone in his arms, I didn't cry out. I gasped. Because it felt like release and surrender and something holy all at once. He kissed my temple as I trembled against his chest. And that's when I knew, this wasn't just sex anymore. It was a story I was part of now. One I couldn't walk away from. We lay in the afterglow, my cheek on his shoulder, my heart racing like it didn't know what to do with stillness. I closed my eyes, pretending I wasn't terrified of what came next. Not just mourning, but meaning. I felt his hand in my hair, soothing. You don't have to explain, he said. But I wanted to. I don't usually do this, I whispered, my voice small, almost ashamed. I mean. Like this. He smiled without mockery. I know. I could tell. And somehow that made me feel seen in a way that scraped against the softest part of me. He hadn't judged. He just understood. Ethan sat up, running a hand through his messy hair. What are you scared of? He asked. It was too honest a question. I sat up, clutching the blanket around me. Of needing this. Of needing you. The confession hung between us like fog, thick and impossible to ignore. He nodded slowly. I don't want to be another regret, Ava. The way he said my name, soft, like a prayer, made my throat tighten. You're not, I whispered. You're the only thing that's felt real in a long time. And maybe that was the most dangerous thing of all. The first light of morning leaked through the grimy window, bathing the room in a silver hush. I watched him dress, his body familiar now, but still a mystery. My pulse throbbed in places I couldn't name. Do I see you again? He asked, as if unsure he deserved an answer. I don't know, I said honestly. Because I didn't. My heart wanted to say yes. My fear wanted to run. And both were loud. I watched his shoulders tense, just slightly, before he nodded. Then I'll wait, he said, simple and sure. As if I was worth waiting for. When he left, the door clicked shut behind him, but his presence lingered like heat on my skin. I stood there for minutes, naked, used, touched, adored, and I didn't know who I was anymore. Just that I wasn't the same woman who walked into that bar hours ago. I looked in the mirror. Mascara smudged, lips bruised, chest rising fast. I saw someone softer. Wilder. Someone who had let herself feel. And I didn't know if I hated her or loved her for it. But she was mine now. And she had Ethan's name burned into her silence. I walked home as the city woke up around me, horns blaring, coffee brewing, life resuming like I hadn't been unraveled all night long. But I carried it with me. The memory of his fingers. His voice. His ache. And the ghost of what he made me feel pulsed between my thighs like a secret no one else would know. And yet. I wanted more. Not just the sex. But the way he looked at me. Like I wasn't lost. Like I was worth finding. I shouldn't want that. But temptation never played fair. And desire? Desire never leaves quietly.